Let's convene the meeting of the Darien City Council for June 2nd. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Belzak.
Here.
Kenny.
Here.
Legansky.
Here.
Shower.
Here.
Stompanato.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Takes us to number 5 on our agenda. Before I get to number 5. We have to follow a procedure tonight with Alderman Gustafson, who's called in. He's requesting to participate remotely. According to what we know, he has to convince you that he should participate tonight. So he's going to present his case, and then we vote on it. Not me, not Mr. Vanna, but the council. So Eric, why don't you go ahead and state your rationale?
Well, just so you know, a little history in this. I spoke today to an attorney at the Illinois Attorney General's office. He indicated that my ability to attend tonight's meeting remotely is dependent upon the approval from City Council. No other requirements are required, so it's just up to the City Council. So therefore, I am formally requesting City Council approval for me to attend tonight's meeting remotely. You know, it's an important meeting tonight because it has a major item in my ward with Chestnut Court that's going to impact a lot of the residents. So it's really important for me to attend this meeting. We were able to hire a couple people up here in Canada, so my time is now going to be freed up. I might miss one more meeting, but that's it. So I'm only going to have missed a total of 4 meetings, and I'm back for the rest of the year. So it should for me to attend any other future meetings. But this meeting I wouldn't really care about, except for it does have Chestnut Court on it, which does impact my ward. So that's why I'm really hoping that you guys would give me approval to attend tonight's meeting remotely. So any questions at all?
I think beforehand, maybe John, you could give, there's a lot of people in the audience that are wondering about this, probably not aware of the details. Maybe you could just outline again for the council what's happening here, what the decisions are.
Sure. The state law and city ordinance provides that as long as there's a live quorum in the room, which of course we have, that a member of the city council can participate remotely, but only for a limited number of reasons. One is for employment purposes. One is for illness in the family. One is for being called out of the area for city business or the like. So it's up to Alderman Gustafson to explain not the
here's
this
the
meeting
thing.
to him, but why he qualifies for remote participation.
John, the attorney told me today that all those criteria are no longer applicable, that they're only requiring now the city council approval. That was a recent change that was made. And they're actually now considering for next year is to have remote participation allowed all the time. So they're really starting to change a lot on this. So, because I went through it to them that, you know, employment used to be one criteria. He goes, it used to be, but it's not anymore. So, but I still meet the old requirements for the working up here, which I am working.
Any of the aldermen have any questions?
The law hasn't changed, and it's still up to the council.
Right. It's up to the city council.
It's up to.
Attorney Murphy's saying that the criteria has not changed, as he knows it, that the requirements are still as noted that we were, because we've discussed this before at city council. And that
according to the Illinois Attorney General's office, it has changed.
Okay.
That's just wrong.
I know that there's been discussion.
He or she may be confused with during
Wow.
COVID with now that COVID's over.
I know there's
Nah,
discussion about remote access through committee meetings, but not for city council.
Did-
But
Eric,
that's
did-
discussion.
Eric, did they offer you any written explanation on that versus?
No, nothing written, but he's indicated that if anybody wants to talk to the Attorney General's office, they're more than happy to, and they are looking, he's the one also pushing to get remote access going forward all the time. They said it worked so well during COVID that they really feel that it's the way to go for the future.
So Eric, I'm just gonna ask you a real quick question. Why would you wait till to this juncture? If you've already missed 4, why didn't you do this earlier on, if it meant that much to you? Because this Chestnut Court's been going on for a
Well,
while.
because I did not anticipate this, for the Chestnut Court to come up for vote this soon. I was assuming that we were gonna do it along with the TIF at the same time, is what was the information that I was being given. But that changed, and all of a sudden Chestnut Court appeared on the agenda. And I was really surprised by that, because we're not discussing TIF at all, which is a major portion for this development.
But they're separate items, Eric, and were
They're
you?
separate items, but they're totally related.
Okay, and
The potential impact of the TIF can have a major impact on this development. If the developer doesn't get the TIF, he may not want to do the apartments or condos, whatever he's going to do, because he may not have the money.
And did you see in the emails when the planning and zoning information came out, there was 2 planning and zoning meetings weeks apart, as well as a municipal services meeting that discussed
And
this?
I listened to all those meetings. I was there. Someone had me on the phone, and I listened to both of those meetings.
Okay, well, clearly, then you heard, and then in those meetings, it stated very clearly that the sequence of events was the next.
Well, I was told that the TIF would then come in place, and before it went to city council, TIF would be part of the process. But that did not materialize. That's why I'm a little taken back by this. I wasn't even going to push this until Chestnut Court appeared on the agenda, which I was really surprised that it did.
Which we knew on,
And
which
it's
we
an
knew
important
last
thing
Thursday,
impacting my ward.
which we knew last Thursday.
John, it's Brian. One
And
clarification.
I sent an email off to Brian and requesting access as soon as I found it was gonna be on the agenda.
John, it's Brian, a clarification, because we're getting a little bit off the topic of, you know, if it's permissible, when somebody's working. But I think you've explained to us, and maybe you should do that one more time, what does working mean? You know, it's different if.
Working means
Eric, you gotta
Yeah.
hang on a second, it's getting a little bit hard, wait till I'm done, and then we could hear better.
Okay.
You know, the difference when, somebody's working, obviously somebody could go, self-employed, do a consulting job out of town, they can make arrangements versus, an alderman that's working full-time and their boss sends them to New York on business for 2 weeks at the last minute. I think that's an important distinction that I wanna make sure the council is very clear on.
And I think that's all the
Well,
elements
I
that allow
have,
somebody
can I speak now or no?
No,
But John is speaking now.
Okay, I can't hear him too well.
Okay.
all of the elements which authorize remote participation have an element of compulsion or beyond the control of the individual elected official. Employment purposes, the boss sends you to go to a sales meeting in Columbus, Ohio. You get that notice at the last minute. You get sick. Your wife gets sick. You have to go to Springfield for an Illinois Municipal League matter that the city council sends you to. So all of these have an element of beyond the control of the alderman. So again, it's up to the council to make a determination based on the information that you have in front of you.
So we would need a motion to allow Alderman Gustafson to participate. We have a motion. We have no motion. We have no motion, Eric.
Okay, then I'm gonna hang up.
Okay.
Just to say, I'm very disappointed with this, because this is not, because according to the Attorney General, and I'm gonna get all over this, because the Attorney General is giving me different direction. So thank you for your consideration.
You take care.
Appreciate it.
Take care and come back home soon, okay? Okay. Now, John, are you still with us, John?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Number 5 on our agenda, are questions, comments, and announcements of the general nature. We put this on our agenda several years ago to provide people who cannot stay the entire meeting, who might have something non-agenda related that they want to share with the council. We have 2 other areas on our agenda for agenda related, and of course, tonight, I think a lot of people are here for the Chestnut Court issue. And during the Chestnut Court issue, we will also allow people to make presentations and to express their concern. So if anybody would like to come forward at this point and share something that's not agenda related, please do so. Okay? If not, then we'll move on to approval of the minutes. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes of May 19, 2025, moved by Alderman Kenny, seconded by Alderman Shower. Questions or comments regarding those minutes? If none, the roll.
Kenny,
Aye.
Shower,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Legansky.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
Minutes have been approved. Takes us to receiving of communications. Do any of the aldermen have communications they'd like to share with the council tonight? Mary?
Thank you, Mayor. I continue to get messages, voice messages, conversations, emails regarding concerned residents that border and surround Carriage Greens Country Club about the potential for fencing going up on the course property that would basically be in their rear or side yards. So very concerned residents, people wanting to do what they can further to ensure the course, not have trespassers, not have vandalism, not have people riding bikes, walking dogs, pushing baby strollers. So, just the residents are very much wanting to be an active part of helping secure the course and keep it safe, hoping that a fence does not need to be put up in place. They clearly, the homeowners groups in Pinehurst and Carriageway West and the villas and in Brookeridge Creek all want to be good neighbors and are being good neighbors as best as possible. So conversations, outreaches happen with the owners of Carriage Greens and the managers of the food service and the police have had meetings. So we're doing everything we can to advocate on our residents' behalf and keep the Carriage Green Golf Course safe and prosperous.
Mary, do we know, have you talked to Chris now about
I
whether?
have not gotten a date yet on when people are meeting, but
Okay,
they're well aware that we want to be a part of any process and actively involved.
thank you. Anyone else? Joe?
Mr. Mayor, I received 2 communications, one from a Diana Meyer, Darien resident, regarding opposition to Chestnut Court, and I received a similar email from Jason Barnaby from change.org, same topic.
Anything else? I received a very nice phone call the other day from a Dominic Rapaldi. He wanted to compliment our Public Works Department on the grinding program that we have with regard to the sidewalks. As many people probably know, when it's slightly above, we're now grinding those surfaces, which is a tremendous cost savings to the city. And he said, I want to compliment the Public Works Department and Mr. Gombeck for saving us money. So,
Thank you. Pass it on to the team for sure.
and then I received an email from a Walter Dexter. Walt Dexter, who said he was very much in favor of the Chestnut Court development, and Donna German, who again was also supportive of the Chestnut Court Center. With that, then, I'll go to the mayor's report, and as I explained during the work session, we have a big event that's gonna be coming up in Darien, June 25th. It's the 25th American Sokol Slet, S-L-E-T, and I'm gonna let them explain that. The mayoral proclamation will also probably explain some of that, but it's being hosted at Hinsdale South High School. We're gonna have over 300 people coming from Europe alone to participate in this event. There'll be people from all over the United States coming for this event at Hinsdale South, and Darien will welcome all of them. But I will read the proclamation. Whereas the Sokol movement was founded in 1862 in the Czech Republic, which later became Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic and the Slovak Republic. Whereas its original purpose was to foster democracy among the Czech people living in the oppressive Austro-Hungarian Empire. And whereas the American Sokol organization was founded in 1865 based on founder Dr. Miroslav Tyr's credo of a sound mind and a sound body. And whereas Czech immigrants brought the Sokol ideal to America, thus establishing the first unit in St. Louis, Missouri in 1865, followed by Chicago, Illinois in 1866. And whereas the nonprofit 501c3 organization offers physical training in gymnastics and other athletics, as well as providing cultural awareness and family-oriented activities to its members and communities across the country. And whereas Sokol is a multifaceted organization guiding its members throughout life, from early youth to maturity, to physical and moral health, good citizenship, and responsible patriotism, combined with continuous self-improvement. And whereas the mission of American Sokol is to provide fitness and community for individuals and families through physical, educational, cultural, and social programs. And whereas Sokol is the Czech word for falcon, and slet is the Czech word for gathering. And whereas American Sokol serves as a quadrennial event for Sokol members across the numerous Sokol organizations around the globe. And whereas the 2025 Slet will serve as their 25th such gathering hosted by American Sokol. And whereas the gathering this June will highlight competitors and spectators from America, Canada, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and beyond. And whereas these groups will converge in Darien at Hinsdale South High School. And whereas they will compete in sports competitions and perform mass calisthenics. Where it is estimated that this event will be attended by over 1,000 individuals during the course of the event. And whereas this event will allow Darien to exercise this motto as a nice place to live as we welcome many to our beautiful city. Now therefore, I, Joseph A. Marquez, Mayor of the City of Darien, want to welcome the 25th Annual American Sokol Sled participants to our city. And I hereby recognize the week of June 25th to June 29th as the 25th American Sokol Sled in the city of Darien. And I urge all of our Darien residents to come out and support this wonderful event. Do we have a member of the, Rich, is Rich here? Why don't you guys come forward?
Yeah, I'll let Howie, the committee chair, take this one.
Yeah, Howie? Picture Howie.
Sure.
Then I'll let you explain it a little bit further. Rich, you guys squeeze places.
Yeah, sure.
For you? You guys want to hold on to that?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna do one. Excellent.
Okay, thank you. Want to say a few words?
Well, thank you, and I think you described us perfectly, so, but, you know, Sokol is all about community. So whether it's having a presence in our own individual communities throughout the country, or providing community for individuals, and opening up our doors to them. So it means a lot that we have the support of this council and this community for the event. And I'm a Darien resident, so I'm part of this community every day. But we have a lot of people excited to call this community home for 5 days later this month. So thank you for your support and recognition.
Thank you. Okay, that takes, I've got a couple other things I want to mention. We have a special meeting of the Darien City Council this Thursday. 6 alder people and the Darien Park District, 5 commissioners, will take place this Thursday in the Police Training Center beginning at 7 p.m. Mr. Ray Jablonski, president of the Darien Park District, and I worked with Amy Cotter, a facilitator, to plan the agenda for that meeting. And this is part of our strategic plan to work together, the Park District as well as the council, at growing a good relationship that we already have. And the only participants will be the 6 of you and the 5 commissioners. Nobody from our staff, myself, the treasurer, the city clerk will not participate in the event. And it took us about 6 hours to develop the agenda, and I think it'll be a worthwhile meeting. I also want to inform everybody that we will begin our Darien Summer Internship Program developed by the city in conjunction with Hinsdale South High School on June 9th. We're gonna have 3 students from Hinsdale South who are seniors who will spend 6 weeks here at City Hall working in all phases of city government. And we will also be bringing in career speakers in areas of interest expressed by the students. The program will run for 6 weeks. When students complete the presentation, they'll make a presentation to the Hinsdale District 86 Board and to you, the Darien City Council. And I just want to update you on that. We will have 2 young women who are both seniors and a young man who is a senior, going to be a senior at Hinsdale South High School. And that's my communication, or my mayor's report. So we move on to the city clerk report. Joanne?
No report this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. City administrative report, Mr. Bannon?
No report, Mayor, thank you.
Department head information and questions. Any questions for Mr. Gombeck or for Chief Thomas? Or do you have anything to present?
Nothing for this evening, Mayor, thank you.
Anything?
Hey, Dan, we talked a little bit this week about Fairview, the grass on along the railways and stuff. It's down, you know, is it down?
That is Downers Grove right away there. We're reaching out to them regarding that follow-up.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, that takes us to Treasury report tonight. We have 2 warrants. Treasurer Corn?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm requesting council's approval tonight of warrant number 242527 in the amount of $207,908.46 from the listed funds.
Motion to approve, Alderman Shallower, seconded by Alderwoman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? If none, the roll.
Shower.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Leganski.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
That warrant has been approved. Mike?
Okay, requesting council's approval of warrant number 252603 in the amount of $650,651.94 from the listed funds and payroll for the period ended May 29th in the amount of $341,603.38 for a total to be approved of $992,255.32.
Motion to approve, Alderman Belzak, seconded by Alderman Stompanato. Any questions or comments? If none, the roll.
Belzak.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Leganski.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
And that warrant has been approved. It takes us to standing committee reports. Do any of the chair people have reports to give tonight? Mary?
There was no administrative finance meeting tonight due to lack of agenda items. And our next meeting will be Monday, August 4th at 6 p.m. in the upstairs conference room.
Thank you. Alderman Belzak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next municipal services meeting will be held on June the 23rd at 6 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you. Alderman Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The police committee will meet on Monday, June 16th, 6 p.m. across the parking lot of police training room, pending agenda items.
And I would also like to note that the Darien Community Action committee meeting will take place on Saturday, June 14th. We're gonna actually meet in the city council chambers at 9 o'clock. Okay, that takes us to questions and comments, agenda related. Okay, We move to old business. There being none, we move to the consent agenda. Please bear with me. I have a number of items here to read. Item A, consideration of a motion to approving the purchase of one Monroe 18-inch rear cross conveyor spreader used on truck number 105 for Monroe Truck Equipment in an amount not to exceed $22,378. Item B, consideration of a motion accepting a proposal from Precision Pavement Market Incorporated at the proposed unit prices in an amount not to exceed $16,000 for the 2025 road striping program. Item C, consideration of a motion accepting the proposal of a 12-month subscription for the mini road weather information system sensors from Frost Solutions LLC in an amount not to exceed $19,600. Item D, consideration of a motion authorizing the purchase of sewer truck nozzles, headsets, and accessories from Standard Equipment Company for the Vector equipment at the proposed unit prices in an amount not to exceed $25,721.50. Item E, consideration of a motion accepting a proposal from Samsara Incorporated for the hardware and accessories to accommodate the installation and software of the fleet tracking and licenses for a 3-year contract and extension in an amount not to exceed $5,066.11 for the first year terms. Item F, consideration of a motion accepting proposal for the purchase and installation of a tank monitor for the replacement of the Public Works fuel tank gauge from B&K Equipment in an amount not to exceed $14,699.41. Item G, consideration of a motion to approve an amended resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the County of DuPage for a cost share of a right-of-way enhancement project at the southeast corner along Plainfield Road from Cass Avenue to Linden Avenue and Cass Avenue to the side yard limit of 7614 Gale Avenue. Item H, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance amending Title B of the Darien City Code to add Chapter 8, establishing a tree protection ordinance to regulate trees within public right-of-way and on city-owned property, called the Tree Protection Ordinance. Item I, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance approving a variation from the Darien zoning ordinance for PZC 2025-08 for 8337 Grandview Lane. Item J, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance approving a variation from the Darien zoning ordinance PZC 2025-10 for 2330 Green Valley Road. Item K, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance approving a variation from the Darien zoning ordinance for PZC 2025-12 for 7322 Darien Lane. And item L, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance granting a special use for a recreational facility or health club in accordance with the Darien ordinance PZC 2025-11 for 7415 Cass Avenue. Motion to approve. Alderman Shower, seconded by Alderman Sullivan, in the roll.
Shower.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Leganski.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
The consent agenda has been approved. That takes us to new business. First item under new business is consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance amending various sections of Title 9, Chapter 3, parking restrictions of the City of Darien City Code. Motion to approve. Alderman Belzak, seconded by Alderman Leganski. Discussion. Jerry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank Chief Thomas and his staff for everything they did on Title IX. Had some issues in my ward, and so there was a lot of gray with the old section Title IX, so I know it really kind of updated it, and I do appreciate all the work you did for that, Chief. Thank you.
Anyone? Not the roll.
Belzak.
Aye.
Leganski.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Stompanato,
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
The item has been approved. Item B, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance amending various sections of Title 8, Chapter 1, Police Department of the City of Darien, Darien City Code. Motion to approve, Alderman Stompanato, seconded by Alderman Belzak. And any discussion? This is the ordinance, this will provide the chief with an opportunity to promote a second deputy chief. We would have 2 deputy chiefs. Any questions or comments? If not, the roll.
Stompanato,
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Leganski.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
That has been approved. Item C, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance rezoning certain property providing for preliminary plat approval and granting certain variations from the Darien zoning ordinance PZC 2024-09 for 7511 Lamont Road, otherwise known as Chestnut Court, Darien. Motion to approve, Alderman Belzak, seconded by Alderman Shower, and discussion.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'm gonna give Kumar a call. His flight was canceled again out of Newark.
And I have a statement I'd like to read too, before we get started. When you have them, let me know.
Point of clarification, Mayor, typically we would have had questions from the gallery, prior to the vote, correct?
Right,
We're just doing discussion now.
we're just in discussion. And we'll have audience
Good
participation.
evening, Kumar. You're at the city council here this evening, along with a room full of residents. So you're gonna have to speak loud when you're addressed. Again, city council audience, Kumar Bahafanasi is the owner of that plaza there. And with him is his team, Andrews, who's with the architect on board with this, along with Chris Fish, who's the engineer. So I just wanted to introduce the players that are here this evening representing the redevelopment. Thank you.
Okay, what I wanted to say is the Chestnut Court issue has been something that's been on our agenda since I became mayor in 2019. We have seen a center that was very vibrant in the early 1990s, and around 2002, 2003, we started seeing that diminish. And over the years, we have seen significant vacancies within that shopping center. This has been a point of discussion for us throughout the last 6 years. Our Economic Development Committee met when we had an Economic Development Committee. They met, they discussed it. We actually had the owners of the center come in where we discussed with them what we could do, possibilities there were for enhancing that center. We really didn't get very far with those owners of the center. So I want people to know this is not something that just came up last year or the year before. This is something that this council has talked about in committee. We had a revision to our comprehensive plan back in 2006, and we did another revision to our comprehensive plan in 2022. And what that revision included was the determination of 9 key development areas. There are 9 development areas within the city of Darien in our comprehensive plan that can be developed or redeveloped. Chestnut Court is one of those. But there are other development areas, as many of you know, we're limited in Darien to where redevelopment can take place. We're either looking at something that's currently existing that needs to be torn down and rebuilt, or we're looking at a piece of vacant property. I'll give you an example. There's a piece of property at the corner of Plainfield Road and Clarendon Hills Road. There's a home on that corner. It's the Shinoy House. That's a key development area. We don't have plans for that right now, but that's what we mean by a key development area. We went through the Planning and Zoning and Economic Development Commission. They approved that change to the comprehensive plan. It came to our city council. Our city council approved that determination of 9 key development areas, and Chestnut Court was one of them. What we also did at that point, we started looking around at other suburban communities that had shopping centers that were not doing well. And what they were doing is they were going to what we call mixed use, where they were blending residential in with retail. And what we did is we changed our city code to allow for a designation of a piece of property as MU, or mixed use. That was again approved by the Planning and Zoning Committee, and that was approved by the Darien City Council. In late 2023, the property that is known as Chestnut Court was purchased by Mr. Kumar Bhavanasi. Mr. Bhavanasi got a hold of us here at the city. He came in, he met with us, he sat down with us to talk about what our idea was for that property. And I don't want anybody to miss this, but the city of Darien determined that we wanted to have a development that had mixed use, that had residential mixed with retail, in accordance with other communities were doing. Mr. Bhavanasi listened very much to what we had to say and said he would work with us in that regard. We met with him several months later, where he actually showed us architectural plans, potential architectural plans, and we started talking about some of the things that could go into the center: residential, new retail, several new restaurants, new facade, things like that. We indicated to him that we would be willing to discuss economic incentives, and the concept or the idea of the TIF came up as part of that discussion. So over the course of several meetings in 2024, Mr. Bhavanasi has submitted architectural designs incorporating residential with new retail restaurants. And I want this council to know, this is not a Mayor Joe Marquez idea. This is something that 7 people, including Mr. Gustafson, sat around and discussed. This is no secret to anybody sitting on this council that this has been discussed by all of us, not just by one person, but by all of us. And we're looking very much at a center that is 40 to 50% vacant now that Joanne Fabrics is going to go out of business. It's a center that needs redevelopment. And we have a developer who is willing to work with us. And a lot is contingent on the TIF. But right now, tonight, we're looking at the plat and the variations, the 2 variations. And so I wanted to present that so people had some understanding of where this has come from. This is not something that just arose last week or last month, or this has been a discussion over the last 6 years, what's gonna happen. And aside from the Darien Point Shopping Center, and the Darien Point is the shopping center that includes the Charlie's Cheesesteak and the Nothing Bundt Cake. That was a large development project that we engaged in. Next to that, this is the largest redevelopment plan that we've ever addressed as a city. We've never done a TIF before. We're working with TIF consultants to determine if it's TIF eligible. We'll find that out. But this is a project that has occupied our thought for the last 6 years, since 2019. And we want to hear from you. We know there's people out there who are concerned about the development. They're concerned about the apartments, and we will listen to you tonight. But I wanted to preface our discussion with those statements. So anybody here on the council want to make a statement? Alderman Belzan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regarding the rezoning, I don't think that this is a no-brainer in my opinion, because we've all discussed this. Discussed it on numerous different occasions regarding the problems that this shopping center is having regarding keeping tenants and keeping up to date. And looking around, like you said, other areas, we decided mixed use might be the best thing. It seems like brick and mortar stores are not as prevalent as they were, obviously, 20, 30 years ago. And at this point, I think the rezoning as to mixed use is something that, like I said, we've already discussed, and I think it's really a no-brainer as to that. As to the variations, those are different topics, and maybe people might have different opinions as to whether the variation should be granted. Should there be more parking spaces? Should there be less units? This is a preliminary zoning variations being requested today. I think I'd like to see it move forward.
Mary?
I think, based on the discussions we've been having since, I've been on council since you've been mayor, and clearly, I'm right down the street. I might not be in that ward, but it's an area I frequent. I'm a big fan of Jam and Jelly, and the other stores that were in there. Used to shop at Wilton a lot, but they have suffered greatly, that center. It has become a sore eye, in my opinion. And when you look at our neighbors, what they've done, our neighboring towns, especially Burr Ridge and Lamont, and even Downers Grove, mixed use, residential use, and mixed with retail, is the way of the times. And, I know we've had discussions in the past at other developments in Darien, condominiums versus apartments. But at the end of the day, the apartment situation seems to be of greater need right now. We've got young people wanting to come back to the suburbs and having a hard time finding a place to rent and rest their head. And the cost of rent, being quite high, but they want to be close to their places of employment, whether they're teachers or working in the various industries nearby or businesses. And more and more businesses are no longer allowing people to work remote. They're looking for them to be in person. And there's a great deal of businesses out this 55 corridor, and the commute from the city is absolutely horrific. And they no longer want to do the reverse commute. They want to come back out to the suburbs because the suburbs are starting to offer a lot more for them, and they're also getting, a little older, maybe not married with children yet, but not wanting to live under mom and dad's roof. So I think from a preliminary standpoint, there's still areas of needs to be discussed, things that need to be worked out. Nothing is final, but I agree with Alderman Belzak. The rezone is a must. It's something we've talked about for years, literally for years. And the variations, I have my set of concerns, especially with parking and the adequate amount of space for people, pets, and things around the building so that they're not in the parking lot. But I do think a project like this, with maybe some changes along the way, will really serve our community well.
Thank you. Alderman Lukanski?
Thank you, Mayor. To kind of echo Mary, I actually have my daughter now trying to move back out this way, and she couldn't find an apartment, so she's gonna be going to Lyle. Mixed use is needed, I clearly support that. But at the same time, I want, because it's a residential area there, I want it to be a showcase. I really do. I'm very concerned about the parking. I think the market analysis that was done assumes a garage from what I read. So to have all those cars now competing with the retail space, I think there's gonna be issues with plowing down the road and just competing for, somehow it has to be separated out. To really be a showcase in terms of, I think people would want garage parking. I mean, because to me, there's no other amenities around there without walking pretty far. So to me, this apartment needs to have the amenities that I've seen, with my son in DC, where he lives. I know it's a different thing, but again, people, young professionals like my daughter too, are looking for this, there's not a lot of houses out there. I mean, people have been locked in at a lot of low rates during COVID, and there's not a big supply out there of homes for sale. So I see the need for apartments in condos because there's just not that much out there. So to me, I want the residential area to really be a showcase. And what I'm seeing right now, I'm not crazy about it. I'll be less crazy about it with giving TIF money as well. So I'm hoping that more discussion can happen in terms of what amenities can we have within that development to really make it something we can be proud of.
Ted Schauer? Alderman Schauer?
I'm gonna say this, what I kind of said in municipal services, and I'll go from there. When you look at where the property is located at, okay? We have been struggling in this location for a long time. And the businesses that go in, the businesses come out. Now we have a situation where we have a possibility that we could do a mixed-use development. And I keep thinking about the fact that we are on the corner that basically with 3 inlets and outlets that basically go across the street from Downers Grove and Woodridge. And so if you think about a situation where you can turn around and bring in a mixed-use property where technically you could walk across the street to turn around to go to Starbucks, maybe to the movie theater, maybe to Kohl's, or across the street the other way to Best Buy, it's one of those situations where it's gonna be its own unique little area. With that said, okay, I also look back to the Grove across the street that's catty corner from there. And about 10 years ago, they put a boatload of cash into it. And that, they were thinking they were gonna lower the leases and they're gonna get a bunch of businesses to come on in, and they're struggling. So in this situation, when I look at it, I'm looking at a long-term solution. And anything other than just doing a mixed use in this area, I don't think is going to make it. So when I look at this, this is why I'm going to support it. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Alderman Stompanato.
To echo what the other 4 aldermen have said, changing the zoning is gotta happen for the mixed use. I recall that shopping center when it had art shows and 100% occupancy. It was a beautiful center, but as we could see across the street, that those days are gone. There are no shopping malls that are really thriving in that respect. The apartment building, I kind of side with Jerry as far as I want it to look nice, I want it to be nice, and I think it will be nice. I don't have any doubt that it's gonna be top quality. The facade, getting just the parking lot cleaned up is gonna be worlds better than what we have. And I don't know that anybody else is gonna come in here and try to do anything differently outside of try to get some people to rent it. And they have to keep lowering the rent to do that, and I don't think that that's the long-term solution. So I would like to see it move forward. And we'll have many, many steps in this process to ensure that it's going the direction that really is what Darien deserves. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Alderman Kenny.
By the time it gets done, me, I got nothing left to say. What I'm really impressed with is the process. We talked about this is not something that just came overnight or somebody came to the development, said, hey, I wanna buy this and this is what I wanna do. We've had a comprehensive plan, goal setting. We've had a lot of different, in my years at the council, a lot of different votes have come up where people were concerned about safety and housing and whatnot. We had Sterling Bay's warehouse came up on South Frontage Road. It was gonna be, everybody was concerned about traffic and children riding their bicycles down the frontage road and having accidents, and that has never happened. I think our city planners, Mr. Murphy and Mr. Yankee, his predecessors, they've, with the guidance of Mr. Gonback, they have done an outstanding job of planning down to the details. I sat here during the planning and zoning meeting and watching the planning and zoning committee going through it, making calculations, both the architect and our planning and zoning, negotiating, making sure it's a negotiation. You're never going to get everything you want in a negotiation. But I think that all the parties involved with this process have done a yeoman's job, and because of the process alone, I'm in favor for the project as well.
Michael, do you want to offer anything?
Really can't add much more. I mean, as everybody indicated, I think mixed use is a mandatory change at this point. You look at all the other developments, look at Yorktown. I mean, everybody's going that direction because retail is just dying. I think it's a great opportunity for this developer to come in and offer us what we've really been looking forward to. Like Jerry said, it'd be nice to make this a showplace, and this is just step one. There's a lot of steps to go along the way that Ryan and Dan will be involved in to hopefully make it a little bit better. But I mean, they are offering some amenities. They do have a fitness room, they do have a pool, they do have some things in there now as far as how that's addressed and showcased and everything. But again, the concept, I was on the planning commission for many years, and again, was a great center over many years. But retail is dying. We've had that discussion. Even me, I hardly go shopping anymore. You can just go online, you can find whatever I want in a minute and have it there by tomorrow. And have the availability of it. So I mean, I'm definitely in favor of moving forward on this.
Joanne, I'm not gonna ask you because I know you're not.
I can't talk.
You can't talk. The other thing is, we're working with an owner who has been nothing but agreeable with us, I believe. Mr. Bahavanasi has listened to us a lot, and he asks us a lot of questions. He's very concerned about getting us to approve everything that he would like to see in this project, but he's open-minded to our recommendations. So I think a lot of your concerns about making this a showcase is something that this gentleman will definitely work on. I want to address one other point. As the past president of DuPage Mayors and Managers, I come in contact with mayors throughout DuPage County. And I will be honest with you and tell you that anytime a mayor sits down and talks about a project going on in his community, it usually involves a mixed-use development, or it involves a 4, 5, or 6-story apartment complex. I was in Roselle on Friday. Mayor David Pileski dedicated a new center. And I asked David what was going on in Roselle, and he said, down by the tracks, we're building a 270-unit apartment complex. I said, condos? He says, no, rental. He said, all rental. Go out to Warrenville. Warrenville is developing the same thing, apartments. Young people want to rent, they're not buying. It's unique to their generation, so the market right now is demanding apartments for people who want to go into those apartments. So I'll leave it at that. I know we have people in the audience who would like to address us. I would ask them to keep their comments to 3 minutes, and
I will set the timer.
this we're going over here is gonna keep track. So who would ever like to come to the microphone? We don't need an address, just need your name. Yes, please come forward.
My name's Joe Raybig. I live on Cambridge Road. I've lived in Darien for nearly 25 years. I've made friends here, raised a family here, felt proud to live here. But my sense of pride and community has deteriorated in recent years by the decisions made by the City Council. With the most recent and most important decision you will make tonight. Eric Gustafson, my alderman in Ward 6 and the ward closest to Chestnut Court, couldn't be here tonight, and I'm disappointed by that. But shame on you for not allowing him to participate. This is his ward, and he's my alderman. I can only guess it's because he's opposed to this development, and you know that, and rightly so. I don't see how an apartment building of any size will be good for this community, and I question the developer's understanding of our town and its residents. The proposal cited that these apartments would cater to young professionals, but I don't see how that is possible. A young professional won't be shopping at Ross Dress for Less. A young professional won't be shopping at Burlington Coat Factory. A young professional will be looking to live in a better developed, more established area close to a train station, as many young professionals seek employment downtown where paychecks are typically larger. My next door neighbor, Art Donner, sitting behind me, cited many issues with this proposal in a sensible, informed argument at an earlier planning and zoning meeting. Those arguments fell on deaf ears at that meeting, and committee members seemed eager to move the project forward, despite concerns by the residents closest to this development. If it passes tonight, I will look forward to future election cycles where affected Darien residents can vote all of you out because this development has no upside to our community. Ted Schauer said in a recent meeting that this development is, quote, worth a shot. This isn't something you should be so blithe about. You're talking about tearing down 90,000 square feet of existing resale space and opening our community to renters who will have no stake or commitment in Darien. I invite you to take a walk around or a drive through Ward 6. There are many new families that have moved in, more than I can count, and I'm always seeing new faces walking their dogs or pushing their strollers. That should be the target demographic for Darien's future, not an apartment complex full of transient renters built by an out-of-state developer with no sense of what Darien is or aspires to be. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm not a good speaker at all to begin with, but anyway, I'm Debbie Gustafson, Eric's wife. I do wanna say I'm very disappointed that you didn't allow him to speak. Last year, guys, you allowed him to do it, and now all of a sudden this year, you're not allowing him to do it. He is there working, but besides that, I'm reading what he wanted me to talk about tonight. So on his behalf, he was elected by the residents of Ward 6 to represent them as the alderman for the city of Darien. In order to properly represent them, I listened to their input regarding items that come up for vote on the city council. I want to thank all the residents who coordinated obtaining petition signatures and residents who responded to the people collecting signatures regarding Chestnut Court. Based on the input from the residents have spoken loudly against the inclusion of apartments in this development. In order to properly represent the wishes of the vast majority of the residents of Ward 6, I cannot support this project with the current inclusion of apartments. The residents, especially those closest to the development, have spoke loudly, and I strongly support these residents. I strongly urge the developer reconsider having apartments rather than condos in the development. These condos should be restricted to 55 and older to lessen the burden on the schools in the area. I strongly believe in the redevelopment of the Chestnut Court Shopping Center as a mixed-use facility, but condos rather than apartments. Let's make this development the best it can be and deny this project and have the developer rethink the use of the condos. This development is a gateway to the city of Darien, and it needs to reflect the quality of life here in Darien. I myself did go out and got signatures for people and just to talk to people in Ward 6 about it. A lot of them had no idea what was going on. I talked to 125 people telling them, and they all are against apartments. Yes, I think something really needs to be done to the center. I don't think apartments is the answer myself. A lot of very disappointed people. And I think condos is a better option to go than apartments. I don't know if there's any way that it could even be extended. I'm sure it probably isn't, just because so many people aren't aware of what's going on to the center. So I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thanks, Doug.
My name is Dwayne Pry. I live on Wakefield in Ward 6. I'm here tonight to submit you 376 Darien signatures and 27 surrounding area signatures of citizens that oppose the building of the 4-story apartment building proposed for Chestnut Court Shopping Center. Of all the people we talked to, only 4 people were okay with the proposed 156 to 166 unit apartment building. Most were not aware that they were not going to be condos, but apartments. I believe if the building had been condos, the people of Darien would have accepted it. I know tonight you had planned on voting on this issue, but I ask you to postpone this vote until a later date in order to reach out to the citizens of Darien to give them a voice in this decision. I know we all support the revitalization of Chestnut Court Shopping Center, and I believe that condos would be accepted by the vast majority. If need be, we will continue our petition and submit it to you every meeting of this council so you have a clear idea of the views of the people of Darien. I also urge every resident of Darien to reach out to their alderman and voice their own opinion. Who should I give these to? We have several copies.
The clerk.
Just need one.
The top one was actually another one.
I don't need to
That
know
was handed to
anything. I
me.
don't need to know anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mimi Raffinetti. My husband and I moved to Darien in 1979. We've owned 3 homes in this town. I have a few questions I would like to ask. One was already answered. It was built in 1990, is that correct? Is that how old Chestnut Court is?
It was a vibrant center in the 1990s.
It was
Exactly when it was.
developed in the 1990s. We don't know how old it is.
1986.
Say that again?
1986 is when it was annexed.
86 was annexed, so we're talking something 35, maybe even 40 years old. Okay. In the presentation by the architect, he mentioned the EPA because it is adjacent to a wetlands. Is that correct, sir?
I don't believe I mentioned the EPA.
You didn't mention the EPA at all. Are you aware that it backs up to a wetlands?
I am aware that the property.
Okay. Is the footprint going to be any bigger?
She needs to talk to the council.
The footprint of what?
The buildings?
No.
The footprint will be the same. So you're going to go with the EPA report from 35, 40 years ago, is that correct?
I don't understand the question. What EPA report?
Well, if there's a variance in the footprint, you would need a new EPA report. And I contacted the EPA in Chicago, Springfield, and they said, of course, that I don't see any permits in the system for this area. So I'm going to assume you're going to use the old wetlands report.
If we need to file new reports, we can absolutely do that during the permit process.
I wish you would. Thank you. When he purchased this in 2023, it was the agreement that you would work with him to get retail owners to come in?
We discussed redevelopment, and the redevelopment included new retail as well as.
Okay, but you can do it and he can do it, is that correct?
I don't understand.
Well, let's say he wants a Starbucks, could he go out and,
Get a
contract Starbucks and, okay, but you could do that too. Okay, in listening to you people tonight, we know we're not gonna change any votes here. It's pretty obvious what's going on. But what I'm going to tell you is, we're opposed to this because it's too big. You've all mentioned, or several of you've mentioned parking. We're very concerned about parking. How are you going to bring a high-end restaurant to this place if they can't find a place to park? Okay, I'm gonna just sum up by saying this. It's too big, it will have too great of an impact on the school system. I'm asking you, if you're going to okay it, do it in phases. I would rather see 60 units accepted, workable, and then go to phase 2. But don't do 166 units and say, gee, that didn't work out the way we thought. Okay. Thank you.
Arthur Donner, 7548 Cambridge. I've listened tonight to a lot of the discussion about how this process went on in order to approve this development. And, there's a process that went on that we should have, multi-use. And I agree with that concept. It makes sense to put some housing in there with the retail. But I really want to ask you to think down deeply. And when you approved to do residential in there, did you really know that you were approving SROs? I mean, there's 16 units in here that are 400 square feet. If you take out the bathroom, it's 250 square feet. So if 16 of these people decide to have a baby, what's the baby gonna do? Crawl along here, right by the furnace and the stove and the refrigerator, crawl on the floor? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Is Darien to the point where the only thing we could approve is a single room occupancy unit for people that might have babies? I mean, this is crazy. Darien's better than this. I mean, here's the plan here. I said it before. If you take out the bathroom, it's 250 square feet. Then I'm arguing with the developer saying, you know, I said, this is garbage. It's a plan. You don't really have a plan. You're putting SRO units out here. And he's arguing back to me, and I'm yelling at him that a prison cell is 100 square feet. This is just a little bit bigger than a prison cell. So come on now. You're gonna approve an SRO? That's crazy. Then I went in here and I said, the parking lot. I made a picture. I walk that parking lot all the time because I'm pretty fat and I gotta try and get my weight down. And I see it in the holiday season especially. My dad had a retail store. And I know how crowded it gets, and you make all your money in the 3 weeks in brick and mortar when you have a retail store. And all of a sudden, so I started painting this, and I do a lot of audits of senior projects throughout the country. And I started yellowing in, when people visit around the holidays and stuff like that. And then Home Run Inn's having a lot of events, for holiday parties and that. You got 107 square feet of rental that you're only gonna have this much room for. So I tried and convince you that the site isn't big enough for that development, and it fell on deaf ears. So then I started arguing about the dollars, okay? There's gonna be $487,000 of money generated from a year based on the occupancy and 70% and all the averages. And you're gonna do a TIF of some dollar amount. Now, I've asked, what is the TIF amount? I know, Mary, you said that it's not relevant here, but what is the TIF amount here? And they say, okay, so I yell out a number to someone, is it 5 million, 10 million? It's not that. Well, if you told me that it's not that number, that means that somebody knows the TIF number. And we're not talking about that. So we're basically giving a blank check with this TIF to the developer, and we don't know what that number is. So to me, I would give a check to my daughter's wedding without any cost on it, and somebody that's dying that I love, I would do a blank check. But why would we give a developer a blank check of TIF money when we're saying it's not related? I wanna make sure this thing survives. If someone comes over to my house and my wife wants to sell it after I'm dead, and they say, okay, if this development goes bad, because economically it never made it, like the one that we have on 63rd and Woodward, and all of a sudden someone says, I don't want to buy it because Henry Horner of Darien is right there if this thing goes south. Well, what am I gonna do? I'm sure that my wife and I can go back to, Berwyn or something like that. But again, it just seems to me that Walmart is watching this, and if we give this big, huge package to this guy, Walmart's gonna say, hey, where's my cut of this? So we're setting a precedent here, as the former treasurer of the city, that might be kind of dangerous. So again, I think that this plan, and the wetland next door does concern me too. I think the view of that building, that 4-story building, is gonna impact the wetland. We're still gonna determine what's going on when I get a hold of Forest Preserve people. But again, if you wanna do this plan, it's gotta be redone. Condos is the way. Maybe tear the whole thing down. And some of the developments I'm seeing in the city, the retail's not working. They're actually tearing out the bottom of the retail and they're making the whole thing apartments to make it work. So maybe, call up like Amley or something, one of the big developers, make the whole thing a beautiful condominium development. That's my suggestion. Thank you for listening to me.
Very good.
Anyone else?
Been in this town for 40 years. Now, to answer your question, before I came to Darien, I was traveling from Chicago, Midway Airport to Joliet every day for work. Then I decided to move to Darien because I knew the area. Because I had an uncle that had a restaurant in this town called the Longhorn. I don't know if any of you remember that.
I do.
Okay, so for the next 35 years, I drove from here to Joliet, because I worked in Joliet, the factory. So I had the choice of finding out where I wanted to live, and I picked Darien. And I drove, summer, spring, winter, blizzards, you name it. So the travel, I understand it, but if you have to work, if you have to travel 40 miles, you travel 40 miles. And this gentleman was saying about the businesses. Business is dead now. Everybody's going online. How about putting like a small theater where you could have entertainment with 2 restaurants? Nobody comes to this town because we don't have no high-end restaurants here. Everybody in this town has to go to Oak Brook, to Bolingbrook, Yorktown, Naperville. We don't have no high-end restaurants here. 5 years ago, I asked about it here. And they said, we got plenty of restaurants. Yeah, we have fast food restaurants. That's it. That's why nobody comes here. That's all I have to say. You can have the condos, but not 126, maybe 50.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessie Kilovis. I live on Worth Drive. My parents moved us here when I was 12, so 30 years ago. I had my first 2 jobs at Chestnut Court. I worked at Factory Card Outlet when I was 16 and Let's Learn when I was 17. I'm opposed to this being residential just because I think that that whole area is dying. All 4 corners over there are dying. They cannot keep tenants. No one's staying there. The restaurants fail. The retail fails. All 4 corners over there just suck. It's just, sadly, unfortunately for this developer and this property owner, it's not a good time to own retail. Just like it's not a good time to own corporate office buildings. Nobody's really fully gone back to work yet. I don't know what the better option is, but I don't think that this is right for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, okay.
I live on Florence Avenue, and we're in our home 49 years this September. We built on Florence. I have just a few comments, nothing coordinated, but I agree with the condo idea 150 million %. And even if it's condos or apartments, I would like to see it owner occupied rather than someone coming in to buy in a couple apartments or a couple of condos and rent them out randomly. My mom lives, or she has lived in an apartment in Darien on Nantucket. She just moved to an assisted living facility. Her assisted living facility is more room than the studio apartments here. And so that's just insane. The parking is another big deal, which everyone is aware of. We used to have a favorite restaurant in Lamont. We don't go there anymore because you can't park. Lamont has a train station. Downers Grove has a train station when you want to build and for people to travel and get around. We don't have a train station. I guess that's about it, but I just would like to see something smaller, something where people would want to go, something classy, something where there is parking or people aren't gonna go back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joshua Tinoco. I've been living here for 25 years. And I do have mixed feelings about this development. It does sound like you guys do want mixed retail, or I mean mixed development with retail and housing. And this, I feel like it's not, I don't think it's good enough. I feel like, I don't know how to put it, but right now, I've looked at the blueprints and I feel like it doesn't encourage walkability or like cycling, and like as you guys mentioned, like if people were to live here, people can just get to these other like stores and restaurants nearby. But like right now, it's just like a sea of parking and I don't see any like sidewalks or paths. Like I understand parking is important, and I think like we should kind of like rethink this development. Have like, like you guys mentioned, possibly like a garage for the residents specifically, and then keep the rest of the parking for like all the retail. And then also, I do see up here, you guys have like a concept of like a drive-through or something like that, like a drive-through restaurant, and I disagree with that. I feel like it should be some sort of like as people have said, a high-end restaurant or some sort of like local business, not some sort of chain restaurant. Because with the drive-through, I feel like it would encourage people from out of town, like neighboring areas or whatever, just driving along 75th, seeing like a restaurant, being like, oh, I could just drive my car through here, pick up food. But I think a sit-down restaurant, high-end or something like that, would be nice for the residents here at this development to be able to just walk on over and sit down and have a meal, or even pick up a meal. And like I do agree, like a lot of people are saying that it should be like condos. And in a way, like I do like the idea of the apartments, but maybe you could downsize like the number of units, either have like, bigger units for the people or just go the condo route. And I think that's really about it. Oh, well, I guess last week Woodridge had like an open house for a like planning development in some of their intersections, like Janes and 75th or like Seven Bridges area. And I feel like they're being a lot more progressive with how they want to do like mixed development. Whereas here it doesn't feel like mixed. It feels like you're just putting you're putting apartments right in the center of a parking lot and then just leaving the rest like as is. And I don't know, I feel like it would be important to look and see what Woodridge is doing. And that's really all I've got.
Thank you. Okay, if no one else, Mary?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak regarding two things. I know before the meeting started, Attorney Murphy talked a little bit more about the TIF. I know Art Donner brought up that he said it's all figured out, and I guess I can't stress enough that that's not true. I mean, the TIF conversation has yet to take place. We haven't had sidebar discussions or separate meetings that people aren't aware of. We've been very open about the process with the TIF, and that's a separate issue that hasn't taken place yet, that there's still a consultant going over it.
When I'm sure if it's even available for TIF.
I'm not sure if it's available, and I'm not sold even if it is available. I still have to be sold on the TIF concept as an elected official. So that still needs to take place. So I can't stress that enough that, the need for a redevelopment of Chestnut Court, I've heard even people say that tonight. Not everyone's agreeing on what the redevelopment should look like, but the redevelopment and the TIF are not, they're separate issues. So will it be eligible for a TIF? Time will tell, and will it get approved for a TIF? That'll happen even after, if it's even eligible for a TIF. And then secondly, just about, I would have liked very much for Alderman Gustafson to be sitting next to me tonight. I myself drove from Upper Wisconsin today to get back here today from a funeral so that I could be present. Conversations happened before he went away about his eligibility to participate. That was discussed and decided before he even left. He's already missed meetings. So, it was already decided that he was not going to be able to participate because he was not eligible. And I wish he could have been here tonight. I'm glad that Debbie spoke on his behalf. I missed a meeting that I wanted to be at because I was out of the country, and I left remarks with another alderman to speak on my behalf. So sometimes we gotta jump over fences and drive all day and into the evening to get to a meeting so that we can be present, because there's rules that exist that allow for remote participation in extreme cases, so.
Steve?
My name's Steve Shanks. I'm a Darien resident. Moved here 6 years ago with my wife. We've speaking as private residents. Just a couple points I wanted to bring up. That first of all, I want to thank Mr. Vanassi the details and the plans, I've read through the packet, it's very detailed, and there's a lot of interesting information in there, to which I wanted to pull out a few points that I saw. If you haven't read it, there is a concrete kind of breakdown of the Darien market area surrounding towns and the city of Darien and how they compare, and specifically a few points that I think are troubling in the future coming years and where Darien needs to make its developments and focus. The surrounding Darien market area, the population breakdown that they have, Darien's population is far more skewed in the 55 and older market, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but the surrounding towns are 48.6% 55 and older. Darien itself is 61.3%. Households with children in the Darien market area is 31.4%, whereas Darien is 23.5%. So right now, Darien has a larger population skewed towards the longtime homeowners, which is wonderful. I speak, hearing a lot of you speak, that you're 25, 30, 40 years, and that's something that I hope as myself. I've only been here 6 years. My wife, we have a 4-year-old, hopefully more on the way, God willing. But we're looking for long-term residency and development. And myself, as one of those markets of young professionals, I commute into Chicago every day. My wife commutes into Chicago. She takes the train, and yeah, we're not near the train station, but we are close enough to 55 and to get into the multiple train station access points along the BNSF that within a couple minutes we are there and to those commuting points. And I was, prior to me being in Darien, nearby in Woodridge, living in an apartment building as a young professional. And this is what I see as this type of development, mixed-use development, whether it be apartments or maybe condos, but apartments, there's nothing wrong with that. You do have a lot of young professionals looking to live in this area for the opportunities in the city. And this, as a mixed-use development, is the type of thing that could pull in one of those tenants. Not too long ago, there was the argument over the old pharmacy building that is now where the Salvation Army has moved. And people kept talking, well, but there's things we want, Trader Joe's and stuff. And I've heard from the city council at these meetings that Trader Joe's isn't interested because of demographic reasons. Well, a mixed-use residential place that is geared towards young professionals, as this is, as myself being somebody who was just recently in that area, this is the type of thing that could pull in an anchor tenant like a Trader Joe's or other young type markets in the retail space that would help as our population does start to age, does start to retire, move out to Florida, Arizona, what have you. This is the type of thing that focus on a younger development is a bonus, and that looking at apartments as people who are not willing or interested in setting down roots in Darien and building a community is a poor way to look at that kind of development. That's my main point I want to say.
Thank you, Steve.
And to Steve's point, I mean, one thing I've always said is Darien, I moved here for a location. I was from Chicago, my wife was from Aurora, this is perfect, we're halfway in between. Been here 31 years. I always tell my wife, we're 30 minutes to the world from here. We really are. We have 355, 55, 294, 83, you name it. You can go anywhere in 30 minutes here. She used to work for Robert Morris. Orland Park, 30 minutes. Aurora, 30 minutes. Arlington Heights, 30 minutes. No matter where she had to go, she was 30 minutes away. Because it doesn't take us 20 minutes to get to a highway because we have so many available. Our location can attract a lot of people for that reason. When I used to work up in Park Ridge, most of the guys I worked with were from Park Ridge. They wouldn't even consider going to Midway Airport. Too far. What about us? We've got the opportunity. Go O'Hare, go Midway, 30 minutes to O'Hare, 30 minutes to Midway, shop the best price. We have that option where people that live north don't even consider coming to Midway. So to Steve's point, I'm glad he brought that up because we do have that attraction to get to a lot of areas depending on where a person might work. And I said earlier, I have a daughter now trying to come back into the area, works in the area here, leaving downtown, and can't find a place. Okay, cannot find a place. Actually looked at Sokol. All Sokol had was 2-bedroom apartments, no studios, no 1-bedrooms. So I understand concerns people have, but there also are things that can attract it. Like I said earlier, I'm not crazy about it. I still have to do some, I think we need to do a lot more work in terms of making this a showcase, be a real anchor in that area. We're landlocked, let's be honest. And our sales tax dollars have to keep coming in somehow. People are always opposed to property taxes. Where are we gonna find it? Retail, we see is going down all the time, right? We're not getting those sales tax dollars that we need to keep supporting the police, keep supporting the fire department, public works. I mean, our pension keeps going up. We've talked about this during the budget process. And we did not raise taxes this past year, so we need to keep looking and being creative on where we find things. So, again, this is just one step in the process, but I think it's a step that has to happen.
You know, I'd like to piggyback on that, just 1 second. Jerry mentions all the highways that surround Darien. Look at the schools that we have. We have 3 of the finest elementary school districts you're gonna find. We have 2 of the finest high schools, probably in the state of Illinois. We have a wonderful education system. We have a parks program. I don't know if any of you went over to Garden View Park the other day. I was over there with Mr. Stompanato and Mr. Legansky when they did their ribbon cutting ceremony. Garden View is right across from McDonald's. It's gonna be a wonderful park for children. Community park, major investments being made in community park. Major investments could be made in Westwood Park. These are things you don't find in every community. Plus, you live in one of the safest communities in DuPage County. We have one of the lowest crime rates in DuPage County. We have one of the lowest property taxes bills in DuPage County. Add that to the transportation that's at our convenience, and this really is a nice community to live in. I just wanted to add that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. So I wanted to speak now to a couple of things you just said. So my name is Chris Ravig. I also live on Cambridge Road with all my neighbors here. So you were just talking about the schools. So are we talking about this community that they're gonna build is gonna bring in a lot of kids? Because I thought we were talking about it gearing towards young professionals.
I think that it's being geared more towards young professionals. You might have some families with some children, but I think that'll be a small number.
I have a 30-year-old daughter. She wouldn't live here because there's nowhere to go. Where are the young professionals going? Are they gonna go hang out at McDonald's? Are they hanging out at Chili's? My daughter doesn't have a car. She just bought a car 5 months ago. She's lived in the city. She's lived somewhere she can walk to a train. There's apartment buildings in LaGrange. There's apartment buildings in Westmont. There's apartment buildings that are closer to the Burlington Northern. I'm sorry, there are people who are working in the suburbs, no doubt. But young kids wanna work in the city where they're gonna make the money. That's where they wanna be. And they're not gonna move to Darien because there's nowhere to go. Where are they going? You're gonna put a McDonald's or something with a drive-through in the parking lot with all these apartments? It doesn't make sense. And I think Eric maybe said in his letter that Debbie read, why not do a 55 and older community? This is already an older community. Those people don't need to be walking around the parking lot. Where are these people in these apartments going? What are they gonna do? What's their outlet? We were just over at Home Run and picking up pizzas on Sunday. The parking lot was packed. Packed. So I don't know where the people are shopping. I don't know if they're at Ross or if they were at Home Run Inn, if they had a party, I don't know. But there's no room for 156 apartments around the block from a residential community. And you're not gonna get young professionals. That is a joke. You're not gonna get young people in there. You're gonna get people who are a couple families living in there. We didn't ever get a response about animals. Are there gonna be dogs? He didn't know. We need more information. I don't think you guys should be voting on this tonight. It's not right. This is not what the residents want. And aren't you guys supposed to be the voice of the residents of the community? Because I'm not getting that feel from any of you. That's it.
My name is Dan Freund. I live on Green Valley Road, pretty close to where this proposed development is. I think everybody here can agree 156, 166 apartments is just far too many, there's not enough parking, it's just gonna overcrowd the area. I moved from a 14-unit condo complex in Burbank. They switched from owner occupied to allow renters. It went downhill the first year very fast, forced me out of that area. If we're going to vote on something, if we're going to approve something, it should be owner occupied condos, 55 and over, something reasonable. It's just far too many to say it's just worth a shot and throw something up there, and if it fails, well, what do we do then? Property values go down, it'll cause a whole slew of problems. It needs to be more thought out. Better plans that we're voting on here. I just wanna say I am extremely disappointed to not allow my alderman and my representative to hear these arguments, to be here and to voice his opinion. Well, shame on you for not allowing him to be part of this.
Just about condos. My mom lives in Indian Head Park and there's like 4 big 7-story buildings that are condos. They've had renters that have gone in there, and over the last couple of years, they have finally said there are going to be no more renters. Because renters don't take care of the place as you would if you were occupying and living in it yourself. So they have just made, just recently, cause I had to put my mom in a nursing home, and I just recently sold her condo. I was thinking, well, maybe I should keep it and rent it out to a renter. But they don't allow that there anymore, and there's four big 7-story buildings that are condos, and they are not allowing renters to be in those condos. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'm gonna call the question.
Belzak.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Stefano.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Legansky.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
5 ayes and 1 absent. 6 ayes and 1 absent.
Okay, the motion's been approved. I do appreciate all the comments made by people tonight. I think that it's worth sharing those observations with Mr. Bahavanasi. And again, if you would meet him, you know that he's very open-minded. He wants to do what's right. He wants this to be a beautiful center. And you can go back and share some ideas with him. But this is, as many of you, even you acknowledge, there's need for redevelopment of this center. And we've talked about that for the past 6 years, that we need to redevelop this center. So I don't want you to think that any of your comments made tonight are not things that we take to heart. We do listen, and we do appreciate what you've said, and we will try to work to make this the best center that we can make it. I wanna thank you for that.
Can
Mary?
you explain to the audience and anyone listening how this is a preliminary approval on the variations? So that people understand that this still has a great deal of involvement down the road?
Yeah, I also want you to understand that if the TIF does not go through, we talked to Mr. Bahavanasi, what would happen if the TIF does not go through? If the TIF does not go through, he simply will improve the facade of the building and make cosmetic changes to the building as it currently exists, and then look for new retail in that center. That's if the TIF does not exist. The TIF is needed for the development to take place, and it's not just the 151 apartments, it's several new buildings. He's talked about bringing in a white tablecloth restaurant into that center, as well as the restaurant you saw on the outskirts with the drive-through, new businesses. And to be quite honest, I think a lot of you realize this, if you improve if you put the apartments there, you're gonna draw some businesses there that might not have gone there. I frequent a lot of our businesses. I try to keep my money in Darien. And I was at Jam and Jelly. The owner of Jam and Jelly came up to me and she said, are the apartments gonna go in? And I said, why? And she said, because I have to renew my lease and I wanna renew my lease. But if the apartments are not gonna go in, I'm not gonna renew my lease. And so that's a business owner in that center who's concerned about more foot traffic that would come into her business. I've talked to other owners within that center who are all concerned about where that center is going. We don't want that center to die, folks. If we're just gonna do remodeling of that center and bring businesses in, a lot of you have said tonight, retail is dead. I don't know if retail is dead, but retail is really hurting. If that center dies, that center, the schools lose that income, that revenue, the city loses that sales tax revenue, and it hurts all of us. So we're gonna do our best to make sure that the redevelopment that takes place is something that people can look at and appreciate and say, this is something I really care for. One more point. There is a piece of property called the Sokol property across I-55. And a few years ago, we had a presentation and there was a desire to build a 60 unit apartment building. 66. We heard from the residents in that area, just like we're hearing from the residents tonight, we don't want that building there. And it even got kind of nasty with what they said, but their opposition to that was more than what we've heard tonight. That building went through. That building is a beautiful building. Before the first year was up, I think it was 90% occupied by young professionals. There's been no problems and no issues over there. And it's a beautiful building and a beautiful facility. So we take in what you say, but we also understand we have to look at the previous situation. Mr. Donner will tell you that there's a development right on Manning Road. The McNaughton homes over there, correct, Art?
Yep.
And when that development was proposed, they asked for 15 variations because we had some lots that were gonna be 7,000 square feet and we had some lots, one lot, 14,000 square feet. And even Mr. Donner was opposed to that subdivision. And that subdivision was approved and built. And I would have to say that most of the residents who live in Mr. Donner's area, well, I'll tell you that that's a beautiful subdivision.
My objection was old people can't do stairs. There's old people doing stairs.
So we've dealt with situations like this before. So with that, I'll ask the council if there's anything they want to add.
They're gonna own it and they're gonna own it and they're gonna take care of it, not somebody who's transient in an apartment, it's a no talking situation.
Anything to add? All right, motion to adjourn. Shower, second by Alderman Saponato, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, folks.